It's happened, my dudes. A prominent atheist has converted to Christianity, and the pious are unrelenting in their celebrations. Ayaan Hirsi Ali is associated, or at least has been until recently, with the likes of Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris, and Daniel Dennett. Known for her criticisms of Islam, she has advocated for a world guided by reason and humanistic principles, free from the shackles of religious dogma. However, this is no longer the case. She's published an article titled "Why I Am Now a Christian. Atheism Can't Equip Us for Civilizational War." This is big news, right? Well, Christians certainly seem to think so. The National Journal of the Presbyterian Church of Australia are calling this one of this year's most jaw-dropping stories. They express that her article is not only an explicit renunciation of her former atheism, but also a stunning response to Bertrand Russell's 1922 lecture, "Why I Am Not a Christian." And to give just one more example, Premier Christianity states that Ayaan Hirsi Ali's astonishing announcement that she has become a Christian is almost as surprising as if Richard Dawkins had entered the priesthood. So, what are we to make of this? Let's begin by commenting on the argument she mentions in favour of theism. Oh, there are none. She doesn't mention any argument, which makes her response to Russell even more stunning. What an interesting conversion, huh? Okay, since she doesn't provide any arguments, let's begin by commenting on what she has to say about Jesus and the resurrection. Oh, alright. There's no mention of Jesus either. This is, I freely admit, an incredibly stunning conversion. Well, what about a personal anecdote of a spiritual experience? The Holy Ghost, perhaps? Nope. Nothing. Zero. This is looking like a bit of a weird conversion, right? Now, of course, it's possible that Ali favours certain arguments for God's existence and believes that she's had a personal experience with Jesus, but the point here is that there's nothing in her article that indicates as much. No, she speaks of politics, and so let's do the same. Ali begins by speaking of 9/11 and how many eminent leaders in the West insisted that the terrorists were motivated by reasons other than the ones that they themselves expressed. Jihad, which gave Islam an alibi. She notes that this was not only condescending to Muslims, but also gave many Westerners a chance to retreat into denial. And for what it's worth, I think there's some truth to what she's saying here, as did, and still do, many prominent atheists, such as Hitchens, Harris, Dawkins, and more. As they have expressed, and myself, many Westerners seem incapable of facing, let alone taking seriously, the reality of Islam and the doctrine of jihad. Ali then compares this denial with recent events in Israel, seemingly not knowing that Sam Harris, among other atheists, have published sentiments agreeable to her own. From here, Ali traverses her upbringing as a Muslim, emphasising the oppression and mentality of Islam, and then she gets to why she's converted. Let's hear it. So, what's changed? Why do I call myself a Christian now? Part of the answer is global. Western civilization is under threat from three different but related forces. The resurgence of great power authoritarianism and expansionism in the forms of the Chinese Communist Party and Vladimir Putin's Russia. The rise of global Islamism, which threatens to mobilize a vast population against the West, and the viral spread of woke ideology, which is eating into the moral fibre of the next generation. Hence, Ali's conversion from atheism to Christianity is based, at least in large part, on entirely non-religious concerns. Upon observing global affairs, she's recognised that the West is under threat from a trinity of adversaries, and this has caused her to believe in the trinity of Christianity. This doesn't make much sense, does it? If your reaction to a perceived threat is to suddenly believe in virgin births and inherited sin, then we can be sure that your conversion, at least on this front, isn't really authentic. Now, there are a few Christians that have published worry and doubt about Ali's conversion for this reason, but weirdly, most Christians are failing to see that Ali, and many like her, are calling themselves Christians without, seemingly, affirming the existence of God and the resurrection of Jesus. I've got more to say here, but I'll save it for when we've read more of Ali's article. Talking of which, Ali then says that our secular tools of the military, economy, diplomacy and technology have failed us, and that the only viable solution she can see is to uphold the legacy of Judeo-Christian tradition. Again, notice that this has nothing to do with the truth or claims of the Bible. Nothing to do with the existence and sacrifice of Jesus. There is no compelling argument for Christianity here. Ali proceeds to quote Christian darling Tom Holland, noting that all sorts of apparently secular freedoms, of the market, of conscience, and of the press, find their roots in Christianity. And she continues by expressing a revelation. And so I have come to realise that Russell and my atheist friends fail to see the wood for the trees. The wood is the civilization built on Judeo-Christian tradition. It is the story of the West, warts and all. Russell's critique of those contradictions in Christian doctrine is serious, but it is also too narrow in scope. Now, while it's widely acknowledged that modern Western values emerged within a culture deeply influenced by Christianity, to attribute these values to Christianity alone is absurdly one-dimensional. For a significant part of history, well over 1,000 years, Christian institutions held dominion, shaping societal norms and laws, and under this dominion, practices such as slavery, sexism, and homophobia were maintained explicitly due to the Bible. If you don't believe me, just read the works of Augustine and Aquinas. These saints lived 1,000 years apart, and yet both failed to condemn slavery, and both saw women as second-class citizens. In fact, reading what they thought of women will likely turn your stomach. But of course, any one-dimensional view here is going to fail to account for the nuances. Just as there were many Christians who were more than happy with the slavery, sexism and homophobia that saturated a society under Christian dominion, there were also many Christians that challenged injustices and advocated for change. Yes, they chiefly did so when the Enlightenment was taking place. What a coincidence, but they still fought for modern values. The values that Ali expresses in her article and enjoys in her day-to-day life were won at great resistance against the dominion of Christianity, and her attempts to attribute these victories to Christianity alone, her ignoring of these values emerging when the Enlightenment caught wind, reveals either historical ignorance on her behalf, or, indeed, that she's espousing this view for the purpose of political utility. It's what Christians want to hear. Truth, it seems, is no longer her modus operandi. The irony that she attributes Christianity with such values as freedom for all, when Christians have used the exact same source as Islam, Genesis, to subordinate many other brave women like her, makes me laugh, for the only other option is to cry. Continuing, Ali says that to me, this freedom of conscience and speech is perhaps the greatest benefit of Western civilization. It does not come naturally to man. It is the product of centuries of debate within Jewish and Christian communities. It was these debates that advanced science and reason, diminished cruelty, suppressed superstitions, and built institutions in order to protect life, while guaranteeing freedom to as many people as possible. Unlike Islam, Christianity outgrew its dogmatic stage. But why did Christianity outgrow its dogmatic stage, Ali? Why? Why is it that the dialogues between Jewish and Christian communities for the better part of 1900 years so failed to produce a society that gave women equal consideration, that permitted homosexuals to live on their own terms, that set aside the superstition of prayer for medicine? Why is it that only when the Enlightenment happened, when Enlightenment values came to fruition, they emerged and saturated society? Why is it only then, when they were explicitly arguing against Christian dominion, that these values came to fruition? And why is it that the values that you so enjoy and defend are most strongly upheld in the most secular countries today? And as for the science front, while it is the case that Christians wanted to learn about God's world, the moment they found anything that contradicted the Bible, they halted advancements and discarded the discoveries as blasphemy. Recall that Christians opposed heliocentrism because it didn't have Earth as the centre of the universe. In the same vein, Christians have been opposed to the age of the Earth, as it indicates a longevity far outstripping our existence. Then we have evolution by natural selection, which has famously been resisted and censored by Christians because it doesn't paint humans as the principal creation. In fact, it's only been in recent years that most Christians have come to accept evolution. And then we have psychological and psychiatric medicine, stem cell research, climate change science, and so on. Christians paint a different story to reality, but that doesn't make it so. Unless, of course, it suits your political goals. And this is a big problem we have on our hands, frankly. If someone is willing to buy such shaky claims as inherited sin and virgin births, then they're primed to buy a Christian rewrite of history, aren't they? They won't look these things up. They won't fact-check these narratives. They simply parrot them, either because they lack the ability for critical thinking, or, indeed, they choose to sing this song for the purpose of utility, which seems to be everything that Ali is expressing in her article. Anyhow, from here, Ali gives us her second reason for becoming a Christian. Let's give it a read. I have also turned to Christianity because I ultimately found life without any spiritual solace unendurable. Indeed, very nearly self-destructive. atheism failed to answer a simple question: what is the meaning and purpose of life? Now, suppose for a moment that all non-theistic worldviews fail to provide meaning and purpose. This is, of course, a ridiculous claim that reveals that either the espouser hasn't researched the topics, or that they're not interested in addressing the literature. But let's assume that it's true. How would the failure of atheism providing meaning and purpose validate the existence of God, let alone claims of a resurrection, the Trinity, and what have you? Precisely, it wouldn't. Ali's stance is entirely pragmatic. She evidently favours Christianity, calling herself a Christian even because she, 1, aligns politically with modern Christians, and 2, she doesn't find meaning and purpose under atheism. As Ali continues, Russell and other activist atheists believe that with the rejection of God we would enter an age of reason and intelligent humanism. But the God hole, the void left by the retreat of the church, has merely been filled with a jumble of irrational quasi-religious dogma. What I find intriguing here is that while criticising humanism for failing to see the wood for the trees, Ali is praising and exercising rights and values that result from humanist endeavours. It's almost poetry. The result, she says, is a world where modern cults prey on the dislocated masses, offering them spurious reasons for being and action, mostly by engaging in virtue-signalling theatre on behalf of a victimised minority or our supposedly doomed planet. The line often attributed to G.K. Chesterton has turned into a prophecy. When men choose not to believe in God, they do not thereafter believe in nothing. They then become capable of believing in anything. Okay. Doxastic voluntarism. So we can simply choose to believe that the earth is flat for utility purposes, just as Ali has chosen to revert back to believing in inherited sin based on utility. That's how beliefs work now, I guess. We choose not to believe in God. And yes, Ali, we believe in all sorts of wacky things, don't we? We believe that slavery is wrong, that women are of equal status to men, and that the LGBT community shouldn't be mistreated. Also, we believe that the one and only planet that we have should be cherished. Oh, how we have fallen. I'll tell you what, why don't you pick and choose the values that you enjoy and claim that they're Christian, and discard the values that you don't like as woke? Because in all but name, that's what Christians have been doing throughout history. What's that? You want to raise the age of consent to above 12? But you woke fool. It's been 12 for thousands of years. What's that? You want to permit a woman to do anything but make babies and serve men? What are you, a cuck? Wrapping up, Ali says that we have to offer something more than videos on TikTok, and says that the lesson I learned from my years with the Muslim Brotherhood was the power of a unifying story embedded in the foundational texts of Islam to attract, engage, and mobilize the Muslim masses. Unless we offer something as meaningful, I fear the erosion of our civilization will continue. And fortunately, there is no need to look for some new age concoction of medicine and mindfulness. Christianity has it all. You hear that, Sam? She's going for you, mate. That is why I no longer consider myself a Muslim apostate, but a lapsed atheist. Of course, I still have a great deal to learn about Christianity. I discover a little more at church every Sunday, but I have recognised in my own long journey through a wilderness of fear and self-doubt that there is a better way to manage the challenge of existence than either Islam or unbelief had to offer. So, that is Ali's statement and the reason for her conversion to Christianity. And as I've already said, there isn't much to discuss here in terms of arguments in favour of Christianity. What we have, I would argue, is something quite popular at the moment, a political conversion based on utility. Perhaps the most famous example of someone similar to Ali is Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson does not affirm the resurrection of Jesus. Instead, he speaks in remarkably metaphorical terms about Jesus and Christianity. He says that Christ's resurrection is more true than true, by which he means that it's not true, but it's very motivating. And to think, he criticises postmodernism. But whereas Jordan uses language so vague as to allow for the interpretation that perhaps, he is actually a Christian, Ali has been straightforward with her political leanings. She hasn't spoken about some metaphorical views on the Bible, nor has she used some buzzword terms such as more true than true or Jesus transcends us. No, her conversion to Christianity is explicitly political, to the extent that I find it hilarious that Christians take this seriously. If I were a Christian, I would be deeply concerned by political conversions like this, not only because they are explicitly devoid of core tenets and thus a mockery of Christianity, but because they indicate Christianity's best days are long behind them. Christians were once so unified that being a Protestant in a Catholic area, or differing on just one doctrine, could lead to one's head being taken off their shoulders. But in this day and age, we not only have the wishy-washy, deeply metaphorical Christianity of Jordan Peterson, but also the outright political Christianity of Ali. Christianity has become so weak that it not only accepts such conversions, but celebrates them. So personally, I think that Ali's conversion is a very good sign. For one, it seems that she finds great solace in what she calls Christianity, and I want nothing but happiness for her. She is a brave person who has led a very difficult life, and if she can find even a small measure of peace from Christianity, then I wish her nothing but the best. I genuinely hope that all of those visits to church do her soul well. And as for Christianity as a whole, I can't understate how wild things are. I'd pay great money to see what St. Augustine and Aquinas would make of Peterson and Ali. I mean, they'd possess disdain for Ali simply because she's a woman, that is for sure. But putting their non-woke Christianity aside, it would genuinely be fascinating to see what they make of such materialistic misuse of Jesus. I have long thought that the flocking towards Peterson's version of Christianity is perhaps the strongest sign of atheism winning in our time. I've even considered that Jordan knows what he's doing, and he's aware of just how fragile Christians can be, and so he's had to use extremely vague language to get them to move forward. But the fact that Christians now embrace someone who explicitly states that she's a Christian for political reasons demonstrates just how much Christianity has declined. Now, I did consider not making a video on this topic because my friend Drew McCoy of Genetically Modified Skeptic has created a video expressing many of the sentiments that I have, and indeed a channel that I absolutely adore, and a person I absolutely adore, known as Emerson Green, has produced a very good video on this too. You can find both of those linked below. But as you'll know from watching my content, I am talking a lot about Christian politics and right-wing politics in general, and they are going hand in hand with a more, if you will, conservative Christian ilk, especially in the US and more towards England, to be frank. The politicisation of Christianity in recent years is no doubt a complex phenomenon, and so far as I see it, this trend can be traced back to several factors. The first is of moral and social issues. Over the past few decades, certain moral and social issues have become heavily politicised, with Christianity playing a central role in these debates. Issues such as abortion, same-sex marriage, and gender roles have been at the forefront. Many Christian groups and leaders have taken very strong, often conservative stances on these issues, aligning themselves with political parties that echo their views. And this alignment has increasingly turned Christianity into a marker of political identity. This is, no doubt, especially true of the US, where the power of evangelicalism is significant. This movement has fused Christian beliefs with nationalistic and conservative policies and ideologies, even influencing policy decisions and party platforms. And so, if you're against the legalization of abortion and all things LGBT, then you're going to find yourself entrenched among Christians. And so speaking anything other than reverence for Christianity is going to pretty much get you excommunicated. Ali is, I'm sure, very much aware of this. She knows the strength of unity, and even states as much in her article. And she's not alone. Many figures are treading this path, from Jordan Peterson to Dave Rubin to Cole Benjamin to Douglas Murray. These people are effectively required to speak fondly of Christianity, as if they're always on the brink of conversion. But unlike these people, who often keep it vague, Ali has been explicit in her conversion, if we can even call it a conversion, being based on politics. She evidently doesn't call herself a Christian because she believes Jesus resurrected, but because she fears China, Putin, Islam, and whatever woke means these days. So, by my lights, what we're witnessing in the West is the continued decline of true Christianity as it's replaced by more and more woke, metaphorical, and political Christianity, to which Ali is now a member. Anyhow, I asked you if you want me to weigh in on this, and you said yes, and so now I've done it. Thank you very much. Always appreciate the view. If you enjoy what I do here, if you enjoy my commentary, then please consider becoming a patron. It makes a very big difference. And some other third thing. Catch you in the next one.